"That's Mommy's," she exclaims, unraveling a mystery Ruan thought was buried. What secret does this relic hold? Subscribe to our channel and share where and when you're listening. Join us as this heartfelt journey unfolds. Will a single moment redefine a broken man's life? A whisper from the past can change everything. In the golden glow of New York's Botanical Garden, Ruan, a grieving CEO, walks hand in hand with his daughter, Isley, haunted by the loss of his wife, Thalassa. 2 years of sorrow have dulled his world until Isley's innocent voice pierces the silence, pointing to a girl wearing a familiar snowflake necklace. The sun hung low in the sky like a fading ember, casting a golden haze over New York's Botanical Garden. Leaves rustled softly underfoot, a gentle symphony that seemed to mock the silence within Ruan's soul. He walked with measured steps, his dark blonde hair catching the light, his deep blue eyes shadowed by memories that refused to fade. At 45, Ruan was the epitome of success, a CEO whose empire spanned skyscrapers and boardrooms. But success felt hollow now, like a polished shell emptied of its pearl. Beside him skipped Isley, his 6-year-old daughter, her rosy white skin glowing with the innocence of youth, her light blonde curls bouncing like sun-kissed waves. She was his anchor, the one bright thread in the tapestry of grief that had woven itself around his heart for 2 long years. Thalassa. The name echoed in his mind like a distant wave crashing against forgotten shores. She had been his everything, his wife, his confidant, the woman whose laughter could chase away the darkest storms, a white woman of ethereal beauty with long golden hair that cascaded like sunlight on water and warm blue eyes that held the depth of oceans. But cancer had stolen her, relentless and unforgiving, turning her vibrant spirit into a fragile whisper. Uveal melanoma, the doctors had called it, a rare thief that crept in silently and claimed her far too soon. Ruwayan remembered the hospital room, sterile and cold, where machines beeped like accusing heartbeats. He had held her hand as she slipped away, her final words a soft plea. "Promise me you'll live, Ruwan. For Isley. For us." In the chaos that followed, funeral arrangements, condolences that rang empty, the endless paperwork of loss, small things had vanished, belongings scattered like autumn leaves in the wind. Among them was the snowflake necklace, a delicate silver pendant shaped like a crystalline flower, encrusted with tiny diamonds that sparkled like fresh snow under light. It had been his gift to Thalassa on their wedding day, a symbol of their enduring love, fragile yet eternal, like snow that blankets the world in quiet beauty. He had searched for it briefly, his heart too raw to dig deeper, assuming it lost in the shuffle of hospital linens or misplaced boxes. Better to let it go, he thought then, than to chase ghosts. Instead, he poured his energy into Isley, the living legacy of Thalassa's warmth, the child who inherited her mother's curls and her unyielding curiosity, a reminder that life persisted even in the shadow of death. The garden paths wound through vibrant blooms, roses in crimson defiance, lilies whispering purity, and Ruwan let his thoughts drift, a habit born of solitude. Isley tugged at his hand, her small fingers warm against his palm. "Daddy, look, butterflies." She pointed to a cluster of monarchs fluttering around a bed of lavender, their orange wings a burst of color in the fading day. Ruwan managed a smile, kneeling to her level. "They're beautiful, just like you," he murmured, brushing a curl from her forehead. But inside, the ache persisted, a constant undercurrent. How could he explain to a child the weight of absence? The way mornings felt emptier without Thalassa's voice, or how nights stretched into endless voids. They continued along the path, the air thick with the scent of earth and petals. Families picnicked on the grass, laughter floating like bubbles in the breeze. Ruwan envied their ease, their unscarred joy. Isley skipped ahead, her pink sneakers kicking up pebbles, until she stopped abruptly near a stone bench tucked beneath a willow tree. There, a young girl sat cross-legged, her pale white skin almost translucent in the dappled light, her light brown hair falling in soft waves over a sketch pad. She was about Isley's age, focused intently on her drawing, crayons scattered around her like fallen stars. Around her neck dangled a necklace, catching the sun in a familiar sparkle, a snowflake pendant, identical in every intricate detail to the one Ruan had given Thalassa. Isley's eyes widened, her small hand clutching Ruan's sleeve with sudden urgency. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice a mix of wonder and confusion. "That's Mommy's necklace, the one with the snowflowers." Time seemed to fracture. Ruan's breath caught in his throat, the world narrowing to that glinting silver chain. It couldn't be. His mind raced back to the hospital, to the blur of nurses and boxes, the items he had dismissed as lost. But there it was, resting against the girl's simple cotton dress, as real as the pounding in his chest. The girl looked up, her expressive eyes meeting his. Curious, unafraid. Beside her sat a woman, presumably her mother, slender and white, with disheveled blonde hair and tired green eyes that spoke of battles unseen. Ruan's knees weakened, a surge of emotions crashing over him like a tidal wave. Grief, sharp and fresh, confusion, twisting like vines. And beneath it all, a spark of something inexplicable. Hope or fear. He had buried the past, convinced himself that moving forward meant sealing away the relics of what was. Yet here, in this serene garden, the past had resurfaced, embodied in a stranger's child. Isley pulled him closer, her innocence bridging the gap. "Can we ask her, Daddy, about Mommy's special thing?" The woman on the bench noticed them now, her posture straightening with a mix of wariness and recognition. Ruan swallowed hard, his voice barely above a whisper. "Hello," he began, the word heavy with unspoken questions. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in hues of amber and rose, Ruan felt the first threads of a forgotten story unraveling. What secrets did this necklace hold? And how could a simple walk in the garden unearth an echo from the grave, pulling him toward a truth he never knew existed? In that moment, the garden transformed, from a place of quiet reflection to the threshold of revelation. Ruan's heart, long encased in ice, began to thaw, not with warmth, but with the chilling certainty that some losses were illusions, and some echoes demanded to be heard. The journey ahead loomed, unseen but inevitable, a path woven from threads of love, loss, and the unbreakable bonds that transcend even death. The fading light of the botanical garden clung to the willow branches like reluctant farewell as Ruan stood frozen before the stone bench. The snowflake necklace gleamed mockingly on the young girl's neck, a phantom from his buried past. Isley's hand tightened in his, her wide eyes flickering between the stranger and her father, sensing the storm brewing in his silence. The girl on the bench, Celine, as he would soon learn, lowered her sketch pad, her pale white skin flushing slightly under his gaze. Her light brown hair framed a face marked by quiet introspection, eyes that held stories too heavy for a child. Beside her, the woman, Fenella, shifted uneasily, her slender frame wrapped in a worn cardigan, her disheveled blonde hair catching the evening breeze. Her green eyes, weary and guarded, met Ruan's with a flicker of recognition, as if she had been expecting this moment. "I'm sorry to intrude," Ruan said, his voice steady but laced with the tremor of unearthed ghosts. "That necklace, it belonged to my wife, or at least, one exactly like it." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Fenella's posture stiffened, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she glanced at Celine, who clutched her crayons tighter, then back at Ruan. "It's not a coincidence," she replied softly, her tone measured, as if weighing each syllable. "Please sit. I'll explain." As Ruan lowered himself onto the bench, Isley clambered up beside him, her curiosity overriding any fear. The garden's serenity felt ironic now, a tranquil backdrop to the unraveling of secrets. Fenella drew a deep breath, her hands folding in her lap like fragile origami. "It was 2 years ago," she began, her voice a quiet thread weaving through the rustling leaves. "In a hospital room that smelled of antiseptic and despair. I was there for my treatments. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Curable, they said, but only if I could afford it. Bills piled up like accusations and I was drowning, thinking of Celine growing up without me." Ruan's heart clenched, the familiarity of loss stabbing anew. He nodded, urging her on, as memories of his own hospital vigils flooded back. The beeps of monitors, the sterile white walls that seemed to close in like a coffin. Fenella continued, her eyes distant, pulling him into the past with her. Your wife, Thalassa, she was in the bed next to mine. Glioblastoma multiforme, stage 4. Incurable. She knew her time was short, but there was a grace about her, a quiet strength that lit the room even in the darkness. Her long golden hair, though thinned by treatments, still framed her face like a halo. Her warm blue eyes, they saw right through you, didn't they? Saw the pain you tried to hide. He swallowed hard, the description painting the Lhasa so vividly it hurt. Yes, that was her, ethereal, compassionate, even as death whispered in her ear. Fenella's voice softened further, drawing him deeper. We talked late into the nights when the pain kept us awake, mothers sharing fears. What would become of our daughters? Celine was just 4 then, so full of questions I couldn't answer. Thalassa spoke of Isley with such love, her voice breaking only once. She showed me pictures, your little girl with those blonde curls so much like her mother's, and she wore that necklace, twisting it between her fingers like a talisman. The scene shifted in Ruan's mind, a flashback unfolding like a sepia-tone film. He could almost hear the hum of fluorescent lights, feel the chill of hospital air. Thalassa, pale but resolute, turning to Fenella in the dim glow. This necklace, she had said, her voice a fragile melody. Ruan gave it to me on our wedding day. It's a snowflake, delicate, unique, but strong enough to blanket the world. It symbolizes the love and protection he's always given our family. Fenella paused in her retelling, her eyes misting. She unclasped it then, her hands trembling, but sure. I don't need it anymore, she told me, but I want its spirit to live on, to spread that protection. Ruan leaned forward, his breath shallow. Isley listened wide-eyed, her small hand tracing patterns on his knee. Fenella pressed on, her words painting the moment with heartbreaking clarity. Thalassa looked me straight in the eyes, her voice weak but unwavering. Ruan is a good father, she said. He'll understand a mother's worry for her child more than anyone. This isn't a beg for charity. It's a message from one mother to a father. Give it to your Celine so she can grow up with you by her side. Let it be the bridge that saves what I can't. The necklace had passed hands then, warm from Thalassa's skin, a silent vow sealed in silver and diamonds. Tears welled in Ruan's eyes, the revelation crashing over him like a wave. He had never known, buried in his own grief, attending to endless meetings and Isley's needs. He hadn't seen the emails or heard the whispers from the hospital staff. Thalassa's act wasn't born of despair or hidden motives. It was pure empathy, a mother's heart reaching out to another in the face of oblivion. Fenella's voice broke the spell, pulling him back to the present. She passed a few days later. I kept the necklace for Celine, a reminder of the stranger who gave us hope. I never sought you out. Pride, fear, maybe. But now, here you are. The garden had grown dimmer, fireflies beginning their tentative dance. Celine shyly offered Isley a crayon, the 2 girls bridging the gap with childlike ease. Ruan wiped his eyes, a profound understanding dawning. Thalassa's final gift wasn't lost. It had been transformed, a beacon guiding him toward redemption. He glanced at Fenella, gratitude and sorrow mingling in his gaze. Thank you for telling me, he whispered. As the stars emerged overhead, Ruan felt the weight of her words settle, not as a burden, but as an invitation to honor Thalassa's legacy, to extend the chain of compassion she had started. The path ahead shimmered with possibility, leading him from the echoes of loss to the dawn of something new. As the stars pierced the deepening twilight above the botanical garden, Ruan sat in stunned silence, Fenella's words echoing like a sacred hymn in the quiet air. The fireflies danced now in earnest, tiny lanterns mirroring the spark igniting within him. Isley had wandered a few steps away with Celine, the 2 girls sharing crayons on the sketchpad, their laughter a soft counterpoint to the gravity of the moment. Fenella watched them, her green eyes softened by the shared vulnerability of motherhood. Ruan's mind swirled with the vivid images she had conjured. Thalassa in that sterile hospital room, her golden hair dimmed, but her spirit undimmed, extending a hand across the chasm of fate. Not out of desperation, but out of profound empathy. a mother to a mother, ensuring her love rippled beyond her own fading light. He had always viewed Thalassa's death as an end, a cruel severance that left him adrift in a sea of what-ifs. The necklace, he thought, was just another casualty of that chaos, a lost token of their shared dreams. But now it revealed itself as something far greater, a deliberate act, a legacy woven from threads of compassion. Thalassa hadn't clung to it in her final days. She had released it, trusting that its essence would find fertile ground. Ruan's chest tightened with a mix of sorrow and awe. How had he missed this? Buried in boardrooms and bedtime stories, he had armored himself against grief, focusing on survival rather than the deeper call to live as she had, generously without reservation. Fenella broke the silence first, her voice gentle yet probing. I didn't expect this day to come. Celine wears it every day, like a good luck charm. It's kept us going, in ways I can't explain. Ruan nodded, his deep blue eyes meeting hers. The weariness in her posture, the hollows under her eyes, the way her hands trembled slightly, spoke of battles fought alone. Leukemia, she had said, curable but crushing under the weight of poverty. Celine's future hung in the balance, much like Isley's had when Thalassa slipped away. The parallel struck him like lightning. Two daughters, two mothers facing oblivion, connected by a single, selfless gesture. In that instant, the fog of his isolation lifted. Thalassa's message wasn't a relic to mourn, it was a mandate to act. To honor her, he couldn't retreat into the shadows of memory. He had to extend the chain she had started, turning her compassion into a living force. Fenella, he said, his voice steady with newfound resolve. Thalassa gave you that necklace not just for hope, but for action. She knew I'd understand, knew I'd see the mother in you, the child in Celine. I want to help, not out of pity, but to fulfill what she began. Fenella's eyes widened, a flicker of disbelief crossing her pale face. You don't know us. Why would you? Ruan raised a hand, gentle but firm. Because I know her. Thalassa saw the world not as it was, but as it could be. She believed in bridges between strangers, in kindness as a legacy that outlives us all. If I ignore this, I ignore her. The words flowed from him like a dam breaking, releasing the pent-up guilt of years spent in emotional exile. He had built empires of steel and glass, but what of the fragile empires of the heart? Thalassa had taught him that true strength lay in vulnerability, in giving when it hurt most. As the girls returned, Isley clutching a scribbled drawing of butterflies and snowflakes, Ruin felt a warmth spread through him, a purpose rekindled. Celine shyly handed him a crayon sketch, two stick figures holding hands under a starry sky. For you, she murmured, her voice as soft as her mother's. The innocence of it pierced him. These children, untouched by the cynicism of loss, embodied the hope Thalassa had fought to preserve. Fenella hesitated, pride warring with desperation in her expression. I've managed this far, she said quietly. Charity feels like surrender. Ruan shook his head, his dark blonde hair catching the last rays of sun. This isn't charity, it's continuation. Thalassa didn't surrender. She transformed her pain into possibility. Let me do the same. He pulled out his phone, not for show, but for immediacy, contacting his assistant to arrange a consultation with top oncologists, anonymous funds for treatments. Fenella watched, tears glistening unspoken. The garden, once a refuge of solitude, now pulsed with connection. Isley tugged at Celine's sleeve. Want to play tag? The girls darted off, their giggles weaving through the trees like threads of light. In the quiet that followed, Ruan reflected on the man he had been, armored, efficient, but empty. Thalassa's legacy wasn't in the necklace's diamonds, but in its journey, from her neck to Celine's, from one broken family to another on the brink. By helping Fenella, he wasn't erasing his grief. He was alchemizing it into something redemptive. The weight on his shoulders shifted, not lighter, but purposeful. As night fully embraced the garden, stars mirroring the fireflies below, Ruan stood, offering Fenella his hand. Let's start tomorrow, he said. She took it, a tentative bridge formed. Walking toward the exit, the group moved as one, two adults bound by a ghost's benevolence, two children forging bonds in play. Ruan glanced back at the bench, where the revelation had unfolded. The past wasn't buried, it was alive, urging him forward. Thalassa's compassion had planted a seed, and now in this unexpected soil, it would bloom. The path ahead promised healing, not just for Fenella and Celine, but for the shattered pieces of his own soul. As the city lights beckoned beyond the garden gates, Ruwan felt the first true stirrings of renewal, a legacy unfolding one compassionate step at a time. As the city lights twinkled beyond the botanical garden's gates, Ruwan walked alongside Fenella, the weight of their shared revelations settling into a tentative companionship. Isley and Celine skipped ahead, their small hands linked, the crayon sketch fluttering like a flag of newfound alliance. The evening air carried a crisp promise, mirroring the resolve blooming in Ruwan's heart. Thalassa's legacy wasn't a distant echo anymore. It was a call to action, urging him to bridge the gap between grief and grace. Fenella, he said, breaking the comfortable silence, would you and Celine join us for dinner? It's getting late and, well, it feels right to start somewhere. Fenella hesitated, her green eyes searching his face for hidden motives. Pride etched lines on her pale brow. But the sight of Celine giggling with Isley softened her resolve. All right, she murmured, but just dinner. Ruwan nodded, a quiet relief washing over him. They hailed a cab, the ride to his penthouse passing in fragments of small talk about the girls' drawings, the garden's blooms, each word a brick in the fragile wall they were building. The city blurred past, skyscrapers rising like sentinels, but Ruwan felt grounded for the first time in years, anchored by purpose. The penthouse loomed high above Central Park, a glass-clad area of modern elegance, sleek marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the glittering skyline, and minimalist furnishings that once amplified his isolation. Now as the door swung open, it felt less like a fortress and more like a sanctuary waiting to be filled. Isley darted inside, pulling Celine along. Come see my room. I have paints and dolls. The girls vanished down the hallway, their laughter echoing like a melody long absent. Fenella lingered in the entryway, her worn cardigan stark against the opulent backdrop, eyes wide with a mix of awe and discomfort. This is beautiful, she said, voice barely above a whisper. Ruwan shrugged off his jacket, rolling up his sleeves as he headed to the kitchen. It's just a place. Make yourself at home. He busied himself with simple preparations, pasta boiling on the stove, fresh vegetables chopped with deliberate care, each motion a meditation on change. Fenella joined him tentatively, slicing tomatoes with hands that betrayed her exhaustion. Conversation flowed haltingly at first. Her job as a freelance designer, sporadic and underpaid, his days buried in corporate strategy, a shield against personal voids. But beneath the surface words lay deeper currents, the shared ache of uncertainty, the fierce love for their daughters that bound them like invisible threads. As the aroma of garlic and herbs filled the air, the girls reappeared, faces smeared with watercolor from an impromptu art session. Look what we made, Isley beamed, holding up a joint masterpiece. Two families under one rainbow, stick figures connected by crayon hearts. Celine's shy smile peeked from behind her, her light brown hair tousled, pale skin flushed with joy. Ruwan's heart swelled. In their innocence, the children were already weaving the healing Thalassa had envisioned. Dinner unfolded around the glass dining table, candlelight flickering like hopeful stars. Plates clinked, stories emerged. Fenella recounting Celine's first steps, Ruwan sharing Thalassa's love for stargazing. Laughter bubbled when Isley mimicked a butterfly, her blonde curls bouncing, drawing Celine out of her shell with shared giggles. Yet amid the warmth, shadows lingered. Fenella's cough, subtle but persistent, reminded Ruwan of the urgency. As dessert, simple fruit parfaits arrived, he excused himself briefly, stepping into his study. The room, lined with bookshelves and a panoramic view of the park below, had been his refuge for late-night work. Now it became a command center for compassion. He dialed his personal physician, a trusted contact from Thalassa's treatments. I need a favor, he said quietly. A full oncology consult, discreet, immediate, for a friend battling leukemia. Details exchanged, appointments set, funds allocated anonymously through a foundation he rarely touched. It wasn't charity, it was continuation, a ripple from Thalassa's final act. Returning to the table, Ruwan caught Fenella watching the girls, her expression a tapestry of love and fear. "I've arranged something," he said softly, sliding a note with the doctor's details across the table. "A specialist tomorrow. No strings, just a step forward." Her eyes met his, tears shimmering but unshed. "Why?" she whispered. Ruwan leaned back, the city lights reflecting in his deep blue eyes. "Because Thalassa saw you, and in helping you, I see her again. This is how we heal. Not alone, but together." The evening deepened, the penthouse alive with the girls' play. Isley and Celine built a fort from cushions, their friendship blossoming like spring flowers after winter's thaw. Sharing secrets, trading toys, their white-skinned cheeks rosy with excitement. Fenella observed, her guard lowering inch by inch, the weight of isolation easing in the shared space. Ruwan joined the fray, kneeling to add a blanket roof, his laughter genuine for the first time in months. In these small moments, the fractures in his soul began to mend, Thalassa's compassion a balm that soothed old wounds. As the clock neared bedtime, Fenella gathered Celine, gratitude etched in her farewell. "Thank you," she said at the door, her hand lingering on his arm. "For tonight and tomorrow." Ruwan watched them descend in the elevator, the necklace glinting one last time under the lobby lights. Alone with Isley, he tucked her in, her sleepy voice murmuring, "Celine's my friend now, Daddy." Kissing her forehead, Ruwan whispered, "And that's just the beginning." The penthouse quieted, but the silence felt different, pregnant with potential rather than emptiness. Ruwan stood at the window, gazing at the stars Thalassa had loved. The first steps of healing had been taken, not in grand gestures but in quiet connections. Tomorrow would bring treatments, challenges, and the slow unfurling of trust. For now in the hush of night, he felt her presence, Thalassa's legacy alive, guiding him toward a dawn where broken hearts could mend, one compassionate act at a time. The stars above the penthouse window held their vigil as Ruwan lingered there, the echo of Isley's sleepy words lingering in the air like a benediction. And that's just the beginning. He traced the constellation Thalassa had once pointed out, her favorite, a cluster she called the Wandering Hearts, and felt a quiet assurance settle over him. The night had planted seeds of connection. Now, in the days that followed, those seeds would take root, drawing nourishment from shared vulnerabilities and budding trust. Tomorrow dawned with purpose, the city awakening in a symphony of horns and sunlight, filtering through glass towers. Fenella arrived at the specialist's office early, Celine in tow, her steps tentative but resolute. Ruwan met them there, not as an overseer, but as a quiet ally, sitting in the waiting room with Isley, who entertained Celine with tales of imaginary adventures. The diagnosis confirmed what Hope had whispered: treatable, with aggressive therapy. Chemo sessions began that week, grueling marathons of IV drips in sterile rooms. But Fenella's green eyes held a new fire. Ruwan arranged discreet support, rides, meals delivered anonymously, a nanny for Celine during the worst days. Not overwhelming, but steady, like the rhythm of waves Thalassa had loved. Weeks blurred into months, the seasons shifting from summer's warmth to autumn's golden hush. Fenella's health turned a corner, her pale skin gaining color, her cough fading to memory. The leukemia retreated, cells responding to the treatments like shadows fleeing dawn. With strength returning, she confided in Ruwan over coffee one afternoon, the penthouse kitchen bathed in slanting light. "I need to stand on my own," she said, her blonde hair tied back, revealing the determined set of her jaw. Ruwan nodded, understanding the fierce independence born of hardship. He connected her with a design firm he knew, subtle introductions, no favors called in overtly. Soon, Fenella landed a position as a graphic artist, her sketches of logos and layouts breathing life into corporate visions. The job brought structure, paychecks that eased the gnawing worry, and a sense of self reclaimed. Celine flourished in tandem, her quiet demeanor blooming under the nurturing sun of stability. The once withdrawn girl, with her light brown hair often hiding her face, now held her head higher, her expressive eyes alight with creativity. Ruan noticed her talent early, those crayon doodles evolving into intricate drawings of gardens and stars. He enrolled her in art classes alongside Isley, the two girls attending weekly sessions at a sunlit studio overlooking the park. There, under the guidance of a kind instructor, Celine's brushes danced across canvases, capturing emotions words couldn't express. Swirling blues for solace, vibrant yellows for joy. Isley, with her blonde curls bouncing, cheered her on, their friendship a canvas of its own. Shared palettes, whispered inspirations, giggles over smudged mistakes. Ruan immersed himself in this emerging tapestry, shedding the armor of his corporate isolation. Weekends transformed from solitary routines into vibrant rituals. Baking sessions in the kitchen became a staple. Flour-dusted counters, the scent of cinnamon rolls wafting through the air. Ruan, sleeves rolled up, kneaded dough with the girls, his deep blue eyes crinkling with laughter as Celine shaped cookies into snowflakes, a nod to the necklace she still wore. Fenella joined when energy allowed, her hands steady now, folding in ingredients with a grace that mirrored Thalassa's quiet poise. These moments wove threads of normalcy, mending the frayed edges of their lives. Ruan found himself opening up, sharing stories of Thalassa, not in sorrow but in celebration. Her love for impromptu picnics, her habit of collecting pressed flowers. One crisp autumn day, they ventured to the park, baskets laden with sandwiches and sketches. The leaves crunched underfoot, a carpet of amber and rust mirroring the warmth in Ruan's chest. Isley and Celine raced ahead, their white-skinned cheeks flushed, collecting fallen treasures for collages. Fenella walked beside Ruan, her cardigan replaced by a vibrant scarf, a gift from her first paycheck. "I feel alive again," she confessed, her voice carrying the wind's whisper. "Not just surviving, but thriving." Ruan smiled, the void in his heart filling with these simple joys. He had been a spectator to life. Now he was a participant, Thalassa's compassion his compass. Challenges arose as they do on any path worth treading. Fenella's treatments left lingering fatigue, moments when doubt crept in like evening shadows. One night, after a particularly draining session, she broke down in the penthouse living room, Celine asleep on the couch. "What if it's not enough?" she whispered, tears tracing her pale face. Ruan sat beside her, offering not platitudes, but presence. "Thalassa fought until the end," he said softly. "She believed in second chances, not just for others, but for herself through them. We're in this together." His words, drawn from his own healed scars, bridged their pains, forging a bond deeper than circumstance. As winter approached, the changes crystallized. Fenella's job blossomed into a promotion, her designs featured in a local exhibit. Celine's artwork adorned the penthouse walls, vibrant portraits of butterflies and families under starry skies, each stroke a testament to resilience. Ruan scaled back board meetings, prioritizing school pickups and story times. The man who once navigated empires of steel now cherished empires of the heart. Isley's bedtime hugs, Celine's grateful smiles, Fenella's growing confidence. Thalassa's legacy pulsed through it all, a gentle current guiding them toward wholeness. One evening, as snow flurried outside the windows, Ruan gathered photos of Thalassa for Celine, who wanted to draw the lady who helped us. The girl's curiosity sparked a ritual, sharing memories over hot cocoa, laughter mingling with tears. In these exchanges, Ruan felt the new path solidifying, hope not as a fragile dream, but a sturdy road paved with acts of kindness. The void that once echoed with loss now resonated with possibility, leading inexorably to a moment of profound tribute yet to come. As the snowflakes swirled outside the penthouse windows like whispers from Thalassa's beloved stars, Ruan watched Celine pore over the faded photographs, her small fingers tracing the contours of a woman she had never met. The hot cocoa steamed on the table, its warmth mirroring the budding hope in the room. Laughter mingling with tears as memories flowed like a gentle stream. Fenella sat nearby, her blonde hair catching the firelight, her once weary frame now infused with vitality from months of recovery. Isley snuggled close, her blonde curls resting against Celine's shoulder, the two girls inseparable in their shared world of wonder. That evening marked a turning point, a quiet ritual where the past met the present, setting the stage for a tribute that would etch itself into their souls. Time wove its tapestry onward, seasons cycling from winter's hush to spring's renewal, summer's vibrancy, and back to autumn's reflective gold. A year had passed since that fateful encounter in the botanical garden, a year of incremental miracles. Fenella's leukemia, once a relentless shadow, had retreated into remission, her designs now gracing gallery walls and corporate campaigns, a testament to reclaimed strength. Celine, the quiet artist, had blossomed under the art class's nurturing gaze, her sketches evolving into masterpieces that captured the essence of emotions unspoken. Ruan, too, had transformed. The CEO who once hid behind boardroom battles now embraced vulnerability, his deep blue eyes reflecting a peace forged from compassion's fire. Their lives intertwined seamlessly. Weekend picnics in the park, holiday baking marathons, evenings where stories of Thalassa bridged the gap between loss and legacy. The culmination arrived on a crisp October afternoon at the annual Youth Art Exhibition in a sun-drenched gallery overlooking Central Park. The space buzzed with energy, canvases lining white walls, young artists mingling with proud families, the air scented with fresh paint and anticipation. Ruan entered hand in hand with Isli, Fenella, and Celine trailing close, the group a portrait of unity. Celine's hand trembled slightly in her mother's, her light brown hair neatly braided, her pale face alight with nervous excitement. She had poured her soul into this piece, inspired by those winter evenings of shared memories. A secret project unveiled only now. They wandered the exhibits, admiring vibrant abstracts and whimsical landscapes, until they reached Celine's corner. There, under soft spotlights, hung her creation, a large canvas that stole the breath from Ruan's lungs. It wasn't a mere drawing, it was a resurrection. Thalassa gazed out from the frame, her long golden hair cascading like sunlight on waves, her warm blue eyes alive with that familiar depth of kindness. She smiled gently, ethereal yet grounded, her white skin radiant against a backdrop of swirling stars and snowflakes. Around her neck gleamed the necklace, its diamonds catching imagined light, a symbol woven into the fabric of the scene. The title, etched in Celine's careful script, Thalassa's Gift, time suspended. Ruan stood transfixed, his heart a tumultuous sea, waves of grief crashing against shores of gratitude. The portrait captured not just Thalassa's likeness, drawn from those cherished photos, but her essence, the quiet strength that had faced death with grace, the compassion that reached beyond her own pain. Tears blurred his vision, hot and unbidden, as fragments of memory flooded back. The hospital room's dim glow, her final whispers, the void that had followed. Yet here, through a child's eyes, she lived again, her legacy immortalized in strokes of color and light. Isley squeezed his hand, her voice a whisper. "It's Mommy, Daddy. So pretty." Fenella, eyes glistening, wrapped an arm around Celine, who looked up with shy pride. The gallery's hum faded to a distant murmur as Ruan approached the canvas, his fingers hovering near the painted necklace, afraid to touch yet drawn inexorably. "Celine," he murmured, voice thick with emotion. "How did you—" The girl stepped forward, her expressive eyes meeting his. "From the stories," she said softly, "and the pictures. She gave us a gift, so I wanted to give one back, to say thank you, for Mommy staying with me." The words pierced him, an arrow of pure light through the remnants of his darkness. This child, saved by Thalassa's foresight, had repaid the debt in the most profound way, by honoring the woman who had bridged their worlds. Fenella, tears tracing her cheeks, unclasped the necklace from Celine's neck. The silver snowflake warm from her skin, just as it had been in that hospital exchange. She placed it in Ruan's palm, closing his fingers around it. "Its mission is complete," she whispered. "Thank you, for Thalassa, for us." The metal felt alive, pulsing with the heartbeat of connections forged, from one mother's sacrifice to another's salvation, from a widower's isolation to a family's rebirth. Ruan clutched it, the diamonds pricking his skin like stars, a tangible link to the woman whose love had orchestrated this symphony of healing. Around them, Onlookers murmured approvals, but the moment belonged to the four: Ruan, Fenella, Isley, Celine, bound by an invisible thread spun from compassion's loom. Ruan knelt, pulling Celine into a gentle embrace. "You've given me back a piece of her," he said, voice breaking. "More than that, you've shown me she's never truly gone." The gallery's lights seemed brighter, the world sharper, as if Thalassa herself smiled from the canvas, her gift fulfilled. As the exhibition wound down, they lingered before the portrait, the weight of the year crystallizing into profound gratitude. Ruan slipped the necklace into his pocket, its presence a comforting weight. The journey had led here, to this pinnacle of honor, but the path continued, rich with promise, illuminated by the light of enduring kindness. Outside, the autumn leaves swirled like confetti, heralding the final chapter of renewal, where bonds deepened and legacies shone eternal. As the autumn leaves swirled like confetti outside the gallery, catching the golden light of the setting sun, Ruan and his companions stepped into the crisp air, the portrait's glow lingering in their hearts like an eternal flame. The exhibition's hum faded behind them, replaced by the rustle of wind through the trees bordering Central Park, a familiar symphony that echoed their first meeting in the botanical garden. Celine clutched her award ribbon, a shy smile playing on her lips, while Isley skipped beside her, chattering about framing the drawing at home. Fenella walked arm in arm with Ruan, her green eyes reflecting the profound shift that had unfolded over the year. The necklace, now safely in Ruan's pocket, felt like a talisman, its weight a reminder that Thalassa's gift had come full circle, binding them in ways deeper than blood. They wandered into the garden paths, the same ones where fate had intertwined their lives, the foliage ablaze in reds and oranges that mirrored the warmth blooming within. "Let's sit," Ruan suggested, guiding them to the stone bench under the willow tree, the very spot where Isley's innocent observation had sparked it all. The group settled, the girls plopping onto the grass to chase fallen leaves, their laughter a melody of unbridled joy. Fenella leaned against Ruan, her blonde hair stirring in the breeze, her once frail form now strong and steady. "That portrait, it's more than art," she murmured. "It's a bridge, isn't it? From her to us." Ruan nodded, his deep blue eyes distant yet peaceful, tracing the horizon where the city met the sky. The journey had been a mosaic of moments: the initial shock of recognition, the raw vulnerability of hospital confessions, the quiet resolve to act, the shared dinners that built trust, the months of healing where Fenella's vitality returned and Celine's creativity soared. Now in this full circle return, he felt the pieces align. Thalassa's compassion hadn't ended with her passing. It had evolved, a living force that mended shattered souls and wove new families from the threads of loss. "She always believed in enduring gifts," he said softly, pulling the necklace from his pocket. The silver snowflake caught the fading light, diamonds sparkling like captured stars. Not things that fade, but acts that echo forever. Fenella took it gently, holding it up as if seeing it anew. "This started it all, a mother's whisper in the dark. And look at us now." Celine and Isley returned, leaves clutched in their hands like treasures, their white-skinned faces flushed with play. "We made crowns," Isley announced, placing a makeshift wreath on Ruan's head, giggling as Celine did the same for Fenella. The simplicity of the gesture pierced Ruan. In their innocence, the girls embodied the hope Thalassa had fought to preserve. Two daughters thriving, their worlds expanded by unexpected bonds. As dusk deepened, painting the sky in hues of lavender and indigo, conversation flowed like a gentle river. They reminisced about the year's triumphs: Fenella's promotion to lead designer, her artwork gracing city billboards, Celine's growing portfolio, her pieces now entered in contests beyond the school exhibit, Ruan's decision to delegate more at work, freeing time for volunteer efforts at cancer support groups, channeling Thalassa's spirit into broader ripples. Challenges had tested them: nights when Fenella's fatigue returned, doubts that whispered in quiet hours. But each trial strengthened their weave, turning strangers into confidants, allies into family. Ruan shared a story he hadn't before: Thalassa's last lucid evening, when she had sketched a simple snowflake on hospital paper, whispering, "Love doesn't melt, it blankets everything." He realized now she had foreseen this, her gift not just saving one life, but igniting a chain of healing. Fenella listened, tears tracing silent paths down her cheeks. "I was so afraid," she confessed, "of losing Celine, of being a burden. But you showed me kindness isn't weakness, it's the strongest force." She handed the necklace back to him. "Keep it. Let it remind you that she's here, in every laugh, every step forward." The girls, sensing the moment's gravity, nestled close. Celine on Fenella's lap, Isli in Ruan's arms. "Tell us about the stars again," Celine requested, her expressive eyes wide. Ruan pointed upward, the first constellations emerging. "See that one? The wandering hearts. Thalassa said they guide lost souls home." As he spoke, weaving tales of celestial journeys, the group felt enveloped in a cocoon of serenity. The garden, once a place of solitary reflection, now pulsed with collective peace, the willow's branches swaying like gentle guardians. In this twilight communion, Ruan understood the gift's true endurance. It wasn't the necklace, nor even the portrait, but the transformations it sparked. He had emerged from grief's cocoon, wings unfurled by purpose. Fenella had reclaimed her life, her resilience a beacon. The girls had gained not just friends, but sisters in spirit. Thalassa's legacy shimmered in their unity, a reminder that compassion, once given, multiplies, healing wounds and illuminating paths unforeseen. As night fully descended, fireflies awakening like living echoes of the stars, they rose to leave. Ruan slipped the necklace around Isli's neck, a passing of the torch. "For you," he said, "to carry her light." The child beamed, touching the pendant with reverence. Hand in hand, they walked out of the garden, the city lights welcoming them home. The path ahead stretched infinite, rich with promise. Dinners shared, holidays celebrated, lives intertwined in enduring harmony. Thalassa hadn't left. She endured in every act of kindness, every bond forged from loss. In the hush of the evening, Ruan felt her presence, a gentle wind at their backs, guiding them toward tomorrows where love's gift shone forever bright. Thank you for joining us on this heartfelt journey of compassion and healing. We hope Ruan, Fenella, Isley, and Celine's story touched your soul, reminding you of the enduring power of kindness. Share your thoughts below. What did Thalassa's gift mean to you? Where and when are you listening from? Your reflections light up our community. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and spread this story's warmth. Until the next tale, keep your heart open, and we'll meet again soon with more stories that inspire and uplift. Thank you, and see you next time.